3.5 years ago, television producer, writer, and director Randy Zisk and his family moved from Malibu, California to the East Coast. After a brief stint in Decatur, Georgia, they discovered Serenbe and were instantly drawn in by the distinctive architecture and easy access to nature. However, as it does happen, once they officially made the move, they realized that the community itself is really what makes Serenbe magical. In this episode, Garnie Nygren and I catch up with Randy about his career in Hollywood. Now, you're definitely a fan of at least one of his shows he's worked on, why creatives are drawn to Serenbe, and all the beauty you'll find out on the trails.
It's so hard to explain. It's just hard to explain the lifestyle and what you guys put together and just the organic farming and the arts. There's so many artists here and people that we've had such a great time meeting. And it started literally on day one when we first came out here and we met a few people. And then it just grew. And as the community grows, to see that you've been able to keep that was special and still grow with all the new things that have happened since we've been here. We've been here 3.5 years. It's really remarkable.
I want to welcome everybody back to Serenbe Stories. Today we have our neighbor Randy Zisk with us and a co-host of Garnie Nygren. Hey Garnie, hey Randy, how are you guys?
Good. I'm so happy to be here today.
I am too. I'm honored. Thank you so much for inviting me.
I know, we're thrilled. And this is going to be in our 10th season, which we're super excited about. And so we always ask, the first thing we do is, what is your Serenbe story? Basically, like, how did you come to find us and be our neighbor?
Sherry and I had been living in California. I was actually in LA since college. And I was finishing up a show, producing and directing a show called Bones in 2017. And when it ended, our new show was going to be in New York. And it looked like we were going to be in New York for a while. So I was thinking about moving the family out to the East Coast because I like to come home for the weekends and be with the kids. And with Sherry. So we looked around and made a short stop in Decatur. We lived for a little bit. My daughter's mom said, you have to come check out Serenbe. It's the greatest thing in the world, and you're going to love it. So we came. It was May Day, 2018.
Oh, May Day, yes.
Yeah, it was really special. And we walked around, and we always wanted to live in nature. We lived on the beach in California, and I thought that might be hard to replace. But when we came here, we saw Garnie, what you and your family had built and developed, and just fell in love with it. My daughter's mom bought a house first, and then about 6 months later, we followed. And I've just loved it ever since. It's so unique and it's so special. And I think what we didn't see at the beginning, we saw the nature and we saw how beautiful it was the community and the people that lived here. And that made it, just for us, the greatest place we've ever lived.
Yeah, we talk a lot about that. You can roll in, it's beautiful. The Nygrens have set the table in this incredible way, and the people are really what make the place so special. But you don't really understand that. You know they're here, but you don't really get it until you really live the life.
And that it's community for adults and children, right? You have 2 children.
Yeah.
At Serenbe, and that there's community for kids as well.
So much. And the kids just love it here.
Yeah.
They love running around the fields, playing in the different sports places we have to play here, the pool. You know, Mila babysits some of the younger kids here, and I always know what house she's babysitting because it's got chalk drawings up and down the sidewalks, and then there's clothes that are laid out where they've done some kind of a play, and it's just really been special. She's a 10th grader, so it's been really fun to see her. And then Jacob just gets into everything that's being done here, chess, the chess club, and all the sports, soccer, and he just has a great group of friends here and loves it.
So I have so many questions to ask you. So where were you guys in Los Angeles? You said at the beach. Were you in Malibu or Hermosa, Manhattan? What was your
We were in Malibu.
Okay, you were in Malibu.
Yeah, we really loved it out there.
Yeah.
And I thought, how are we going to replace this?
I know.
And where could we go that we would like? And if someone had told me that we would end up in rural Georgia, I probably would have thought, I don't think so.
Oh, you and me both.
But it wasn't, yeah.
Yeah.
But then when we came out here, it's so hard to explain. It's just hard to explain the lifestyle and what you guys put together and just the organic farming and the arts. There's so many artists here and people that we've had such a great time meeting. And it started literally on day one when we first came out here and we met a few people. And then it just grew. And as the community grows, to see that you've been able to keep that was special and still grow with all the new things that have happened since we've been here. We've been here 3.5 years. It's really remarkable.
Every time we've gotten the neighborhood and growth point, there's always that understandably fear point from neighbors that, like, are we going to lose what's intimate and special here? And I think, to your point, what's so remarkable is so far that hasn't happened. And I think at this point, we've reached a point where I think that's because the culture very much belongs to the community, and the community works every day to protect like that part of the culture that's here. And so because everyone is caring for it and cultivating, like it will continue on. It's not just like our family. It's not sustainable for one small group of people to sustain a culture, but the community cares for the culture.
Yeah, you're so right. There's such a respect for what you started that I think everybody wants to continue it without seeing it go any other direction,
Right,
because it's
it
really,
gives so much to people.
yeah, it gives so much to people. And just walking around and hiking, Sherry and I have been on every square foot of the property you own, and just we find new things every day. And it's just really beautiful hiking early in the morning, hiking at sunset, looking out over the lake. It's just, yeah, it's really wonderful.
I love that you all use the trails.
Yes.
We have 24 miles of trails now.
Unbelievable. I think we've done all 24 miles.
Yeah.
And
That you can instantly be deep in nature, like in meaningful nature, and easily, in that you don't have to be in a car. And so it allows you to do it on a regular basis. And I think it also allows you to bring kids, right? So for me personally, as a parent, I have 3 kids, like the thought of if I had to put the 5 and 3-year-old in a car seat to like go drive 30 minutes to then go on a 3-mile hike and then worry about, are we going to have a meltdown? Is somebody going to be hungry? Did we forget a diaper? Being able to walk out of your back door with young kids and do 3 miles, you're like, oh, if we need something, we'll just turn around and go home.
yeah, we rarely get in the car, and the amount of trails and the hiking and the just nature is what makes it so great.
Well, I think you can zig and zag off the trails and on the trails. And then they change over the course of the seasons, right? That right now it's winter and it's a different kind of beauty out on the trails. And so that sort of variety, not only the people, but the seasons, which I grew up in Los Angeles and we didn't really have seasons in LA.
No, we don't.
For good or bad. So that's been really neat to sort of have those experiences and really mark the time the trees coming in or flowering and stuff. When you first came down and continued the show in New York, were you flying back and forth?
I was.
Okay.
Pretty much
but you
every
still
weekend.
felt like you could still come home because it was pretty close.
So the last 5 years I've been
so you're
producing and directing in New York.
Okay.
And it's been a pretty easy flight back and forth. And it's just great to be with Sherry and the kids, just an hour and a half flight away.
Yeah.
So it's so easy. It was really tough to go to Los Angeles because then we had to drive another hour to the beach, and it was tough to do on a weekend. But this has been great, and being so close to the airport.
Yeah. Well, and Sherry, your wife, has gotten really involved. I know she teaches some classes at the gym. Do you want to share a little bit about how that happened?
Yeah,
and kind of her background, because it's not just you come for the proximity and the ease of New York and the airport, but it's like everybody gets in, not just the kids. So
yeah. She comes from Canada, from British Columbia, so she knows nature and beautiful settings and feels the same way about Serenbe as I do. In fact, I think she was a little bit ahead of the curve for me. She was like, there's things you don't quite get. And she explained, I was like, yeah, you're right. And she's comes from the fitness world and nutrition world. So it's been great for her to work with the gym and put together programs and watch it grow. So she's excited about that.
Yeah.
She really likes it.
Yeah, that's been a lot of fun to just even see the expansion of the gym. There's a bunch of new classes that we've been taking, which has been a lot of fun, like a bar class and a dance class. And so that's nice to sort of, I think as we as a community grow, people roll in and they're sharing their talents.
Yeah, and I think Sherry's been pivotal in helping pull some of that talent out and setting up that great class schedule.
Yeah, she really loves it and just enjoys every aspect of that.
Yeah.
And another fun thing that Sherry does that she doesn't do often, so a lot of people don't know, is she can set up a really awesome scavenger hunt.
Do tell.
She's into all that stuff. She loves doing those kinds of things.
Okay, good to know. Well, tell me about this.
Is, because she loves Serenbe, and as you all are out on the trails and in nature, like Sherry can set up a really phenomenal, 2 hours Serenbe oriented.
Amazing.
Nature scavenger.
Okay.
Yes.
We need that. I like it. That's super fun. I feel like we need to dig into that. I might have to have Sherry on and talk that through that.
She also put together a pretty good circuit class for putting stations together for exercises, which is kind of fun.
Amazing. Yeah. So we can combine the two. I'm trying to figure that one out. So backing up a little bit, how did you get into, you said you went to school in California. How'd you get into film?
I did. I grew up in Texas, but I went to film school at USC.
Oh, great.
And after that, got into the business. I started as a runner at Warner Brothers getting bagels for the guy who used to get bagels for our boss. Yeah. And just kind of worked my way up and started writing. And I've always loved storytelling. I've always loved making little movies. I did in high school and then got into directing. And that kind of launched me into various shows and working with different shows, different people.
And are you writing, like you mentioned Bones?
I do some.
So for people who may or may not know that show, do you want to give a little bit of a background on that? And like, are you writing and directing that? Or are you
on
working
Bones,
on other projects? Or
on Bones, I produced and directed. I did not write, but it had been on. By the time I got to it, it had already been on for 10 seasons, and they were doing a couple more. So I did the last couple of seasons of it. I directed some of them. That ended, and then went on to different shows. I've done a number of.
Tell us what you're working on now. What's happening? What's the passion point? And is there a project that is really personal to you that you're working on at all right now? Or
there are a number of shows I really enjoyed doing coming through the business. I would say starting out doing Grey's Anatomy was a lot of fun because it was such a great cast. And Shonda Rhimes' writing is so wonderful and smart. I had a lot of fun doing that show. And then I went on to, other shows and did a Desperate Housewives, a few episodes of that. And again, same kind of thing. It was just a really fun cast. And the scripts were really exciting and fun to do. I remember doing a scene where we needed to be in a department store, and most department stores don't want to close for filming. But Neiman Marcus in Beverly Hills said, if you shoot after hours, we'll let you have it for the night. So we did this scene with Eva Longoria where she was shopping and buying various outfits. And it was so much fun. We shot from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and she was so great and just really had a blast doing it and spent the whole night filming this. Running around Neiman's and filming. It was just kind of fun.
Yeah.
Monk is probably the show I've been closest to just because I produced that and directed dozens of those for so many years.
Yeah, phenomenal.
So that was a lot of fun. And again, just a great cast and great writing. And all these shows they're like families. Kind of like what we talked about being in Serenbe, you just feel like you're in a family. Yeah. It's the same with the shows. A lot of times when you're just directing, you come in for a few weeks, so you're kind of a guest, and the family's already set up. And it's really fun to meet new people, work with new people, and so many creative, smart people.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tie that back to just Serenbe again, is we just had a studio open up. Randy and I both live in Grange, which is one of the neighborhoods by the farm, and Rachel Garceau, who's a fabulous resident, just opened up her porcelain ceramic studio. And just these new people popping in. And we have another pottery studio opening up in the Motto neighborhood in a couple weeks by a neighbor. But it's just really cool to see all of these sort of creative people dropping in. And then you can choose to be a part of it or you get to be a part of it. And they're kind of creating their own ecosystem.
Yeah, there's so many great artists here in all different forms. I mean, there's just a lot of creativity, like you said, and all our neighbors have just been.
Well, and I feel like there's a lot of writers here too, right, Garnie? I mean, I feel like there's a lot of people have rolled in.
There's a lot of, I think to Randy's point, there are a lot of writers, there are a lot of actors, right? Yeah. A lot of visual artists. I think creative people understand, like are drawn to Serenbe and have an appreciation pretty immediately for the art that's throughout the community. And so I think the creative part of Serenbe speaks to artists when they come in a way that maybe some other people, some of our finance friends, like take
It really does. And it's something that we didn't know or expect. And it just, as we got it, we started meeting more and more people that were in this business or other, our businesses. And it's just been great to get to know them and see what they're working on and knock around ideas and develop things together and talk to people about projects and whatever. It's
right?
Yeah, it's
that
really a great community.
Amazing.
That collaboration is amazing. Yeah.
It's without question, like Atlanta's airport is what gives the ability for artists who are in the film and TV industry to make Serenbe an option. Yeah. Right? Because you're 25 minutes from any job in the world.
That's right.
So you don't have to sacrifice travel time to work, wherever work may be. Yeah. That's what we've seen, because you start to realize, I think if you're not in the industry, you think, oh, all filming happens in LA or all filming happens in Atlanta. What I've learned from you all, from seeing people who have come in and out of the neighborhood, is filming happens everywhere.
It happens everywhere
in the country and even outside of the country. So you can kind of choose where you want to live. Yeah. It needs to be close to an airport.
It helps being close to an airport and be able to get places fast. You're right. But it doesn't really matter where you live now. You can get anywhere so easily if you're within short distance airport. Yeah.
Have you had the opportunity to work in Atlanta at all?
I've not. And everyone always says that. You moved to Atlanta to work there. I've done one episode of a show here, but no, I haven't really worked in Atlanta yet.
Yeah.
It's mostly been New York.
Yeah. And with the writer's strike over, we're doing this in January of 2024. Do you feel like things are kind of roaring back right now, or is it trickling in? Like, what's sort of the industry?
I think it's going to start roaring back soon. It's the writers are now writing, the projects are getting back up on their feet, and I think it's going to be a good 2024. Yeah.
Okay, good.
It almost has to be, right? Because the content
Yeah.
is like a year
Well,
of
it's
no
building
content.
up. Yeah. Yeah. So all the shows have to come back. And,
Famine, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm like, what's on Netflix? Nothing.
I know I have said it's been the writer's strike for everyone in the industry hasn't been like nice for you all, but like for everyone who lives in the neighborhood who's in the industry, it's been a nice year as a neighbor because we've had a solid year of having all of
See everybody.
in the industry here for a solid year.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. It's been great to be with the kids and with Sherry. It's such an important, having a 10th grader and a 3rd grader, it's so important to be around them at this stage. So having that year to hang with them has been really great.
Yeah. And I think today, I mean, it's not every occupation, but we are so lucky that things have gotten more flexible. And I think companies start to understand, obviously when you're on a shoot, you're on a shoot, but like more flexible about like family and time and everything. So I do think that the world has said that there's a balance that needs to happen. And so hopefully people have felt that, I think, out of COVID and things like this, that spending time with the family becomes a priority. So tell us about some of the things that like your favorite things that you guys do here and when you're not working.
I'd say hiking is probably our favorite thing. And we do that a lot. We have a little dog, so we're constantly taking him on the trails. And then we really just enjoy getting in the golf cart and driving around and stopping and talking to friends because you can't not see, no matter where you go, whether you go to Halsa or the Daisy or the farmhouse or whatever, you're going to run into somebody that you can't wait to talk to and catch up with. And it's the most fun part.
Yeah.
Like whenever we bring friends in town, that's what we do. We get in the golf cart after a hike usually and just go from place to place, starting the general store down the street from where we live and going over to Motto and then up to the farmhouse and just hanging out with friends.
Here's a question that's more like, I think of my own personal experience is like when friends from LA or wherever, you tell them that you've moved to Serenbe in the middle of the country or this quote unquote rural, what do you tell them? How do you explain it to them that you're here and why you've moved?
That's a good question. I think it is hard to explain what Serenbe is because so much of it is the people here. You can look at websites, you can look at the pictures, and the houses are beautiful, and the landscape is beautiful, and nature. But until you really get the whole community and understand that it's great to know your neighbors. We didn't know anybody in Malibu. We didn't know any of our friends. We didn't know any of our neighbors or any of the people down the street. And we would go to the beach and we would hang out and jump in the water, and then we'd come back to our house, and we knew so few people. When we got here, I feel like we know everybody, and and the more people that move in, the more people we seem to meet. If you go down to the green, it's just where the kids are playing sports or throwing around the football. We just
I may have repeated this on the podcast before, but I'll say it again. When we moved down, my husband grew up in San Francisco and I in Los Angeles. We moved here 2009. But we moved from Grant Park in the city of Atlanta, and all of my husband's friends who worked for Turner thought he was crazy. Like, we're going south. What are you doing? And he said, if you could drive 45 minutes and be in California, would you do it? And everybody's like, yes. And so he's like, that's why we moved.
Yeah.
Because it was the closest thing that we could get that kind of had a vibe and a connection to nature. And we had previously been in San Francisco, so very much like biking, beach, outside, a lot more. Not that you can't get that in Los Angeles, but LA is a very different beast.
Yeah, and Serenbe feels more like San Francisco, I think.
So I don't know. It's sort of an interesting thing. And I don't know, Garnie, when you're doing real estate or you're up at the Inn for Hospitality, like, are you finding any fun new ways that people are talking about why?
About why Serenbe?
I know.
Well, I mean, I think the great thing about Serenbe is that the why is 100 different things for 100 different people, but it all comes also back to just how it makes you feel, right? Which is, Randy, is I think what you were saying. If you just feel inspired, you feel relaxed, you feel at peace. We don't get that many places. I think Serenbe has figured out how to maintain a quietness, right? In this kind of frenetic, loud, busy world that we live in. There's a quietness that's here that allows you just to not have to hear all the noise in everyday life.
Yeah, I agree. You really feel connected with the land and with nature and the people. Yeah. When Sherry and I were looking for a place, we really wanted to be away from the city and away from traffic and cars and all those things. And I guess when we walked here, we just found it immediately.
Yeah.
And what's great is you can live. I mean, I always say this to people, and people always kind of be like, what? That sounds so crazy. And I'm like, come and you'll see. But I'm like, you can go like 5 days and not get in a car. And I actually I try not to leave, And so when I say that to people, I try not to leave. They're like, what? You have to get here and then you'll understand.
Well, and as we grow, there are so many more services and stores and restaurants and just offerings. Like one of our residents' father is a tailor. And so, you can go have things tailored by him really at his house, right? And so
that's so great. I didn't know that. That's great.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you his information. But just fun stuff like that. Or we have another neighbor who's bringing in a baker. He's a big baker. We had the Challengers on, and he's bringing in a baker from Atlanta to do some bread workshops. So it's like his interest drove kind of a cool workshop that we maybe wouldn't have created. I really appreciate the people for sort of their curiosity and then what they want to bring to the table. It was a lot of fun. So as we wrap up, do you have any projects that you're working on that you can share with our listeners, or anything fun that you're excited about?
We just finished a Monk movie. So after 14 years, we brought everyone back together.
Great.
And that just dropped last week or a couple weeks ago. So that's exciting.
Is it in theaters or is it
It's streaming.
Okay.
It's on Peacock.
Okay, great. Good for us.
So it was just fun to get everyone back together. We hadn't seen each other or worked together in 14 years. So
anything you're writing yourself personally, or?
There's a couple things I'm writing, and then I'm actually working on something with some of my friends here.
Good.
We're working on something together, which is really fun.
That's
just
really
working
fun.
with good friends from Serenbe has been a blast so far. That's pretty much it right now. I'm headed to Vancouver soon to do just one episode of a show.
Okay, that's fun. That's very cool.
Yeah, it's always fun.
Yeah. So one of the things that we always ask is if somebody was coming, you had a friend visiting or from LA or wherever, and you were going to take them around, or you're going to send them off on their own. You've talked about the trails and golf carting, but do you have anything specific that they would need to do when they're here?
I've just fell in love with the architecture of Serenbe, and the nature speaks for itself. But at some point, you guys had to build, and the way that you did it, and the detail, and the look of the houses, and I go into Mila's mom's house, which to me is just this beautiful house the way it's laid out. It has a New Orleans feel to it, and then our house, which is a modern house, and just driving up and down the street and seeing the different houses is always fun. And I like taking my friends to see that, and then to stop at the farmhouse where I guess it all began, and have lunch there. That's always fun, and just sitting outside, and the kids go up in the treehouse or run around and see the animals. And Jacob loves to go out there and feed the animals. And if we have friends who have kids, that's always a fun place to go. And usually by that point, they're saying, anything for sale in the neighborhood? Or what? Because you just see the attraction so quickly. You just see it. And along the way, you're seeing people and friends and talking to other neighbors. And it's, again, goes back to the community and the family. And
you mentioned the houses and architecture. I think one of the things that I always enjoy is that homes in Serenbe can surprise you, and they don't reveal themselves just from the street.
Yeah.
And so while the fabric of the architecture on the street is beautiful and ties together through a lot of work and intention, it's when you get into the homes, they sometimes open up in a way that you wouldn't expect, like your house in Grange, Randy, right? You don't have an appreciation from the street that you have this beautiful lake view in the back.
Right. So I've walked into a few friends' houses. I'm like, oh my gosh, I would have had no idea. This is, the levels and just the details. So you're right. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for being with
so
us
much
today.
for having me.
We're going to have to watch Monk.
Yes.
Keep up. I'll shout out that. And really appreciate your time. And thanks for coming and being our neighbor.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.